right, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 56. As always, I am one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by Alex Fasciani and Jesse Cox.
Hi.
What's up, boys?
Look, enough intros. Let's get to this story. John Titor.
John Titor part 2, you left us with such a cliffhanger. There was no, because you alluded that this episode is you're going to kind of rip everything you built down. You kind of built us a nice castle, and now you're going to break it apart.
I told you the story. I told you the legend of John Titor. Like, the part that, like, when you see, like, a fluff piece on this in, like, some sort of magazine, that's the part that you got last time.
Futurologist magazine, yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Well, before we get going... go ahead. Please, take it.
I'm just saying, today we're going, like, the complete other side of the coin. Like, we're looking at the weird world around John Titor and the monsters that he's created out there in the American
monsters.
Internetscape. You'll see. You'll see what I'm saying.
I'm nervous. I purposely did not dive any deeper because everything you said I mostly knew, and you gave me some new details that I had no idea about. So,
do you guys want to discuss the Air Buddies some more?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
Before we begin, there is a clarification.
I think we're good.
The disease that you talked about in the last episode, I got endless tweets about how mad cow disease is a very real thing, which we already knew, and that the disease you talked about is just a version of mad cow disease, I guess.
What I was saying was that I don't know if it's possible that type of disease can become a global pandemic. That's the only thing that I was explaining. I obviously know what mad cow disease is, and that disease is sort of like the thing that mad cow disease puts in your brain when you eat diseased meat.
Also, we got messages. Was it this episode, or was it the Patreon episode where I discovered that you two both believe that the world is a black hole?
I didn't say that.
That was last episode because we're talking about CERN and the Hadron Collider.
And you're both crazy people. I'm glad that real scientists were like, no.
No, honestly, I am too, because now that existential dread is long gone and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's you literally could have Googled. You literally could have Googled.
But here's the thing,
what
when
is science
you don't, because there's so many conspiracy things that pop up.
What do you mean?
Here's the thing. I'm an anthropologist. You know what I'm saying? I'm a culture anthropologist. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lay out the story as I heard it. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to preserve the kooky American folklore-y of these weird stories.
Yeah, also, if it wasn't apparent, we're not scientists, everybody. We're here to tell you cool stories.
And obviously, you should not come to us looking for
Speaking of Patreon, though, thank everybody for supporting us over there. After today, there's going to be 6 exclusive minisodes on the Patreon. Like, on top of the compilations that are already out, this is going to be the 6th one that's going to be just exclusive to Patreon. We're due for a minisode compilation already, but your support has gone such a long way. We have over 800 patrons over there now, which is freaking awesome. We're marching towards 1,000, which would be wild. If you guys love the show and you want to support us directly, head over there, throw us a few bucks. You get some cool behind-the-scenes stuff, and it helps us continue this thing every week.
Join the Chilluminati.
Oh, yeah, should we call their little nickname?
Patreon. Chilluminati.
Hey, little chill minis. How you doing?
Chilluminati. Join them at patreon.com/Chilluminati.
Chilluminati sounds terrible.
That is right off the tongue.
Straight out of 2011. That's a straight out of 2011 YouTube personality, dude.
I don't want a Chilluminati. What about Chilluma buddies?
What about just
Chilluma acquaintances?
The Chilluminati.
Hey, you know what? I like that one.
Naughty.
Chilluminati. No, that's just the Discord version. Members. They're the Chilluminati.
That's the nude show we do once per year. Okay.
Alex,
the thing
take it away,
you don't know you guys don't know which show it is. That's a hosts only tradition, and you guys don't get to know which show we're naked for.
That's true.
All right.
We do not.
So last time we talked about this. I'm just adding to the lore.
Yeah, Jesse, come on. Our once a year pre-show nude gathering.
Yeah, don't worry about it. So last time we talked, John Titor was this sort of mysterious man of mystery figure who's maybe on a mission, maybe trying to change history, even though he's technically not going to be around to see it himself because of the way that time travel works in his universe. This is all the stuff that we basically covered last week, right? Nobody's really sure if he's completely talking out of his ass, like on purpose, or if he believes what he's saying. Some of the stuff he says, like, kind of checks out. Like, there's, like, certain people who have come forward who said, oh, no, like, this thing is, like, true or whatever. But the overwhelming feeling that I think people are feeling is one of, like, most people, I think, doubt him. or look at what was happening as some sort of like prank or hoax or joke. I think that's the general consensus about John Titor on the internet. That's just my own like sense of that, but I feel like that's what most people think. But I haven't exactly told you the whole story yet, and there is one person who definitely didn't think it was some kind of prank, and that woman was called Pamela Moore. Okay. So of all the people who have sort of been caught up in the whirlwind of this crazy John Titor like internet theory storm that happened in early 2001, everyone agrees that if anybody had any sort of verifiable one-on-one contact with Titor, as in like private conversations with the guy, it's Pamela Moore, who apparently on multiple occasions engaged in well-documented private conversations with him via chat. Okay. So here's a quote from Pamela Moore describing herself from an interview that she did in 2017.
Okay.
She said, "Everyone thinks I started out asking John too many detailed questions when he came in 2000, but the truth was I had a detailed dream of a time traveler in 1998. So I don't know what kind of person she is. I don't know like where her mind is at coming from this. I don't know her personally. I know her more from interviews than I do from reading all her writing.
Already to me, she looks like a Marianne Williamson.
But the implication is she had a dream,
a premonition,
about
you might say.
time travel. Yes, a premonition, and it relates to this, which I think most reasonable people could be like, okay, I'm already suspicious, but continue.
Yeah, she implies that there's destiny involved in her meeting John Titor, which is kind of interesting. But she sort of like over time kind of like maneuvered herself into being like a contact point for other people who were in the forums to John Titor, like 4 people on the message board. So like people kind of like saw her as sort of like a in-between.
Was there ever any evidence that she actually talked with him?
I mean, other than that they talked to each other on the message board as if they had talked to each other, no, but there was a safeguard. So because she was talking to John Titor, there was sort of this understood sort of danger that she was going to be encountering a lot of people who were pretending to be John Titor when, she only really wanted to be talking to the real guy. So the story goes that he gave her a quote secret song, which if you have time is like worth an afternoon or two of Googling and going down rabbit holes all by itself, because it's such a like romantic detail of the story that he would like give her like a secret song that he would sing to her every time so that she could like identify him, that people have sort of like gotten obsessed with like figuring out what that song is. And there's a lot that you can read about just about the secret song, but that's not like,
what's the over under on it being Despacito?
Alexa,
that is
play Despacito.
It's a future song by a young boy named
Google.
Justin Bieber.
I don't know what the song is. I don't know anything about it. My understanding is that it's like a short little melody. You know what I mean? Like how Willy Wonka goes like.
It's a State Farm jingle.
Of course, yes. And then the Oompa Loompas come out. Right.
Yeah. But that's its own thing. You can go read about that if you want. It's not really related to John Titor as a whole, other than that people just got really obsessed with figuring out the melody of this song. But here is a quote from Pamela about it, from an email that she wrote to the guy I talked about last time, the hoax hunter guy, John Razimus, who I quoted at the beginning of last episode. So here's she did an email interview with him. She said, I honestly think only John himself knew it. Perhaps whoever he was, he never told anyone else. He told me in a chat, not an email. If John ever decides to come forth, I will have the info to confirm it was the same John who posted as John Titor. And apparently, at least since an interview she did in 2017, she is still in contact with John Titor pretty regularly. Here's a quote about that. She said, "The latest package I received had several things in it. A letter from Kay, which is John Titor's mother, a letter from John, an album with a record inside and a CD with some songs on it, but I'm keeping what was on it secret because I am not really sure why he sent those to me. I'm more than likely to find out later. I received it in September of 2016. My theory is that it's an album called Everyday Chemistry by the Beatles. It's only available in certain universes where they didn't break up.
Yeah, that's very true.
So what was the thing from the mom? I feel like the mom is an additional thing I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, so
wait, can I also ask a question real quick? I mean, maybe you answered this and I'm already forgetting. should he not be alive literally right now, growing up, John Connor style, and we should be able to just figure out where this guy is?
Yes, but we don't know for sure if his name is actually John Titor.
Right. Everyone thinks that John Titor is like an anagram
for something.
Or, yeah.
Okay.
And depending on how old he is, I mean, it's 2036, right? So if he's like under 36 years old, right? It's possible that what he did in our timeline made it impossible for him to be born, which might be
true. You could always,
like, if you go down certain rabbit holes of this, that's like what some people think was his other mission, is to like cancel himself out of this timeline.
But
to,
why?
Like,
that doesn't like.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just like
it's not Looper. It's
if you think about it in the same way, right? Like if she's the only one who has the song, it just means that she gets to decide who the real John Titor is based on nothing, theoretically.
But also, like if I had Occam's razor this whole thing, you could also say, why isn't she John Titor? And she's, originally started out pretending to be this guy, and then was like, oh, now I can only talk to him.
Sounds
and
like
then
the beginning of a Mormon religion.
Well, there is some extra stuff here that like that's probably not.
Time out. Aliens, yes. Bigfoot, yes.
Yes.
Extra dimensional things, yes.
Yes.
The Mormon religion, Mathis is iffy on.
Hey man, the only reason he's iffy on because you can go back in history and you can go look at what a fraud that dude was.
He saw Book of Mormon, you know what I mean, and
which is
straight up true.
So you'll believe that people can see ghosts, but like an angel being like,
I did not say I believe people can see ghosts. I said I would love to see a ghost on camera.
I love where you draw the line. I love that you draw the line.
I am firmly in the I want to believe camp. I so fucking badly want to believe. I just need to see one thing. I just
had to call you out on that. I heard that, was like, hold up now. Hold up.
Well, to answer your question, Jesse, there's like a whole like lore thing that started, and after that post in March of 2001, there's a lot less uniformity around what official communication from John Titor was, and like a large portion of that is like what this episode is about, but specifically addressing his mom. Like, I don't really know what the lore is there, other than that like there are other characters in this story, and that his mom enters into the equation somehow because she is alive in this time period for sure. Do you know what I'm saying?
So it's like it's starting to sound more and more like the actual Terminator series, and that sometimes it's John Connor, and sometimes it's his mom, and sometimes it's new characters, and sometimes the past has changed, and sometimes it didn't change. It's like that kind of thing. All right.
Right, but it gets even crazier. Because whatever's happening with Pamela, right? Like, whatever the truth is there is evidence just based on how it's been going that she's at least talking with someone, because it just seems like she is talking to someone, and whether or not he's the real John Titor is completely up for discussion. But it seems like she is talking to someone, and it seems like she believes what she's talking about. A lot more than some other people we're going to get into. But the exact question of who that is deceptively complicated, because she talks about it and sums it up pretty well in her interview, where she says, he then went on to explain how I was communicating with more than one John, that other Johns may arrive and they need the posts to stay up as long as possible. Now, on the surface, this doesn't seem that much wilder than anything else that John Titor has told us, right? Like, we already know he creates a whole new timeline every time he time travels, and since we know he's done that multiple times in multiple decades by now, it kind of stands to reason, if you're able to swallow the time travel pill in the first place, that you can swallow the pill that there might be multiple Johns out there in the time stream at any given time with their own motivation, shaking things up. The only thing that gets murky for me about this is that if they're talking about it creates a new timeline every time that you go back in time, like, are you seeing other John Titors if you're John Titor? You know what I mean? Like, doesn't that seem to go against?
Didn't he in his post, he said he has met himself multiple times and took his younger self on a joyride?
He did say that. Yeah.
He did say it.
So
that's the thing that doesn't sit right with me about this, is that, like, the fact that he would meet himself seems to be against that a little bit, unless he can travel back in time Like, maybe you travel back in time on the world line that you're on. I don't really know. I have to assume like
so like
if
if you travel, if you travel back in time on the world line that you're on, at a certain point, your original world line and that world line's history are the same, and you'd be traveling back on that same point. It only diverges when you arrive, so you can go back on that original point.
But then there's another all right.
But how could you get back to that same world line?
I don't know if
this is the paradox. Sorry. This is the problem where it's like, okay, close your eyes for a minute. Imagine, listeners, close your eyes. Imagine you're going back in time. Let's say you go back to the year 2001, right? And you travel back to 2001. At that point, according to John Titor, there's a split. There's a 2001A, 2001B, right?
Yep.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. And so then imagine if you go down the path of 2001B. Like, that's your new path you're on. And that John Titor says, I want to go back to the year 2000. John Titor then goes back to the year 2000. There's another branch. And so the question is then when it branches off of the year 2000, is there one branch that branches off as 2000A, which has no further branches? And is there one branch that's 2000B that then has another branch that's 2001AB, right?
Yeah, that's how I understand it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I think.
That's how that works. Then he could potentially try to be like, okay, well, I'm going to go to, like, can he do this? Can he go, I'm going to go to 2001B or go to 2000A? Can they do that? Or is it, he says it's only on the timeline you're on.
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time in Doctor Who. I don't know.
But if that's the case, there's a John Titor on every timeline, and so every John Titor can travel back in time.
That's where it starts to get crazy. And
that's where it gets
for
weird.
Me. That's the biggest pain point for me in this whole thing. Like, full disclosure is like, how could you meet yourself? But we're not sure. So as soon as Pamela found out that secret song was going to start becoming pretty useful. I mean, what I meant to say was, and as she soon found out that secret song was about to become pretty useful, she wrote about it in a forum post from 2009. So this was still a few years after any sort of like official communication from John Titor that we all agree is from John Titor. You would not believe how many people write to me and tell me they are John. Everyone seems to want to be John, or they will post on a forum and say they were John. And these people were like literally everywhere. I remember like when I was in college and I was watching the John Titor thing happen in real time, like almost even like back when I was in high school, I think this was happening. Like, just people popping up saying they're John Titor, all these weird, like, he kind of almost became like a modern version of D.B. Cooper, where people were just like, yo, John Titor, like, fucking saved, like, killed Hitler, like, John Titor, like, whatever, like, he became kind of like that type of guy, Chuck Norris type guy on the internet for a little bit. But as often happens in those types of scenarios, one dude eventually separated himself from the pack of, like, not the real John Titor, like John Titor clone guys, and kind of rose to the top of, like, the food chain there. And I think that it was for one simple, like, marketing related reason, which is that in order to, like, not get confused with the original version of himself that was running around and, like, posting and being on Art Bell, this guy called himself John Titor II, like, with two, like, Roman numeral 2 after his name.
Okay.
And I think people liked it because it gives off, like, a Terminator vibe. Like, I think people, like, got on board because he seems cool because he's John Titor II. Like, he's John Titor II. Mark II, John Titor. But he was different than the original John Titor in a lot of ways. Even Pamela Moore was saying there's something slightly off about this guy. And she, I mean, I don't know.
Mirrorverse John Titor, dude. He's got the goatee.
But one of the main differences between the original John Titor and John Titor II is that John Titor II loved taking pictures, loved going on TV, loved going on the radio. He even wrote a book about the entire ordeal. He was even making YouTube videos up until Shelter in Place started. I have, like, a link to his YouTube channel if you guys want to see.
He claims to be, and he claims to be a John Titor.
He claims to be the, like, second clone of John Titor.
A clone? Okay.
Yeah, like a time clone. Like
a branch from a different area.
Like a copy.
Oh my God, this dude.
Yeah, but in December 2016, Kevin Moore, the same John Titor archivist that I quoted in the last episode, blew the lid off of the entire John Titor II situation. It turns out this guy, John Titor II, is actually a like career con man with many aliases, and this is all alleged. I don't want to like start slandering some guy. This is just according to Kevin Moore. He turns out the dude was a career con man with many aliases, a criminal record. His name was Dana Lee Stern Sr., and his whole part of the story was just some weird cuckoo bird shit. Like he just sort of like decided one day that he was going to be John Titor, it seems like. But
Yeah.
the reason this thing went down so crazy, with like a little extra spice on it, was because Kevin Moore, the archivist guy, he was actually one of the co-authors of the John Titor II book, which was called Disclosed. So now, like, he's not only he's mad about it because he's dedicated his life to studying John Titor, but he's also mad about it because this guy basically like tricked him into putting a book out with like fake information in it. So he's like literally going online, like lambasting this guy. He had like a meltdown telling his fans about John Titor II. He like, it was like a ranting, like long, angry video. But then he calmed down the day after. He took that video down. He recorded a nice level-headed explanation of what went down between them, and directed people to his site, thecrystalsun.com, for more information, which I obviously visited, and I'll give you the link for right here, Mathis.
Yeah.
That's for the Victims of John Titor II page. Then you can see, if you want to like go deep into all the reasons that he's sure, you can look there. But it's got a lot of like the talking points that I just said. It's got a lot of clear evidence showing Dana Stern's like picture attached to his name. It also shows him as the CEO of something called John Titor II LLC, a Nevada corporation. It also has a bunch of receipts and emails tying the whole thing together, showing him like talking to people on email about how to trick people, how to get people to lie for him. It's all there at the link. But the one thing I did want to read from there was just a little bit of this absolutely insane blog post, which Kevin Moore links to at the bottom of the page, for, quote, research and information only. Judge for yourself. It seems to be from the oldest son of Dana Lee Stern, who's called Lee Stern, and it's multiple blog posts beyond the one I'm about to read, and it is filled with typos. It looks fake and weird just based on like how it's written, but it has so many like specific incriminating details about him that only a family member would know that I'm tempted, just based on my initial impression, to say that it is at least based in truth and is at least maybe written by the person who they say they are, probably, I think.
All right. Very reassuring.
They say personal things about this guy that like came out just the week of Kevin Moore figuring out about all this.
Gotcha.
And like this is like the evidence that he used, that he discovered this by. So I think it's true, but you should take it with a grain of salt just in case it's fake. Here's what he wrote. My father, Dan Lee Stern, a.k.a. Dana Lee Stern, a.k.a. Dan Stern, a.k.a. Dana Sergrist, a.k.a. Dan C. Stern, a.k.a. Bob Hempstead, a.k.a. Bob Smith, a.k.a. Dana Lee Stern, a.k.a. Donna Lee Stern, a.k.a. Who Knows, is a pathological liar who has deep-seated mommy issues. He thinks everyone should worship him and needs to dominate everyone around him. This is compounded by his cowardice of the First Order. He fled the 82nd Airborne for Canada after stealing a car and wound up in a prison in Canada. His father had to make a deal to get him out. Then he was unceremoniously booted out of the army after betraying some of his fellow soldiers in order to escape getting a dishonorable discharge. This also makes him a traitor to some. While he looks impressive on paper, it is all an illusion and trickery on his part. His PhD was bought and paid for online for $120. His Pulitzer nomination for his coffee table book on hacking was done by his agent. Who cares? As for his employment, he has many, many coworkers that are now enemies. Even several of his coworkers talk about his attempts at extortion of the companies he worked for. His ex-wives have compared notes and found it very revealing. The lies he told about different ones to the new wives don't hold up under the light of day. His sons so despise him that most are considering changing their names. His oldest son is the only one to seriously catch him out and prove him to be the coward and liar he truly is. At the end of his miserable existence, it has become apparent that almost nothing about the life of Dana Lee Stern Sr. is true. There are some who believe that he may have even stolen the identity of his oldest son, who has had to go on disability. Why else would he start attacking his oldest son within 2 weeks of his oldest son signing up for his disability? A private investigator will help us find out the truth. and they did hire one, and he did find out the truth. So it was not looking good for John Titor 2 at this time, though it does get a little bit weirder than that. I can't find any reference to this anywhere else besides the Thrillist article that I based most of this off of.
Yep.
But maybe it's from one of his YouTube videos where he's trying to slander everybody who discredited him. If you go to his website, if you go to his YouTube channel right now, you'll see most of his videos are just him talking shit on some specific person in each video. I don't it's Kevin Moore is a piece of shit, stuff like that.
Classic.
There's one about Mitt Romney. There's one about Robert De Niro. He just call out vids.
Let me say, if all the alleged is true, what a piece of shit.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
But apparently Dana Sr. has said that same son, I don't know if it was in retaliation for him calling him out, but Dana Sr., the guy who says he's John Titor, has said that his son, Lee Stern, actually injected Windex into his own brother's brain in order to give him cancer. I have no idea.
Wait,
what? That
say that.
is.
Can you say it one more time?
Okay, so imagine this shit came out from Lee Stern, the son, incriminating his father. His dad fired back with, the son injected Windex into his own brother's brain in order to give him cancer.
My immediately you'd be like, all right, you lying sack of crap.
I keep thinking about that Geico commercial where she's like, "That's not how this works.
That's not how
this works."
Yeah. I don't know.
That's Dahmer trying to create a love zombie levels of I don't know, man.
Yeah, so John Titor 2 has been the big thing, right? For years, for people with John Titor love who follow this stuff online, John Titor 2 has been the sort of
big thing's a relative term. Having seen his YouTube page, he has about 97 views per video.
Listen,
and most of it is cuckoo banana stuff.
Sure, but he's been sort of the face of this mystery online. His YouTube channel has not ever been his main thing, but he's the one who does interviews on radio shows. He's the one who put the book out. He's the one who's been keeping this story alive for this whole time. But now that we know that John Titor 2 has nothing to do with the real person who did the John Titor stuff, and that he's just kind of confusing the truth a little bit, I want to also go into what possibly the original John Titor stuff is.
Okay.
So there's one element of the Thrillist article that goes throughout the article that I have left out of the show so far because I wanted to save it for this half of the show. And that is the comments from an interview of an extremely interesting dude who is called Joseph Matheny. Okay?
Okay.
Joseph Matheny is a transmedia writer. He's an artist. He's known for spearheading something called Ong's Hat, which that's the thing that I was referring to in the last episode that I said was the earliest internet mystery proto ARG thing that is out there. That's about a weird town in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. That's a weird sci-fi horror extra dimensional thing that started in the 80s and a secret lab and all this shit. That
fun stuff.
They basically created this entire transmedia thing about. They basically invented an urban legend.
I would have loved to have known about that when that was happening.
Yeah.
I would have. That's oh man, that's so fun. That's so much fun.
We're gonna get into that. I'm gonna do that eventually. I have a couple books about that I have always looked up to this guy as a guy who's inspiring to me. So I was excited to see him pop up in the John Titor stuff. But here's what he had to say about this. He said, "I'm going to be picky with what I say to you over what I've said in the past. John Titor is a story that was created as a literary experiment by people who were observing what I was doing with Ong's Hat, and these people wanted to do something like that. I was a consultant on the project, but it wasn't my project. We knew at some point this was going to get out from underneath us, and we were going to have to let it go. I thought everybody would get this was a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But when they didn't, I went to the other people involved and said, let's come out and tell the truth. Nobody would." So according to Matheny, the people who came to him, whose names he still will not reveal, were in it for the art. They're they really were into the idea of the internet as a futuristic version.
You're kind of telling a modern fairy tale.
Yeah, fairy tale, folklore,
sure.
kind of seeing it as the modern version of that.
Man,
and it seemed like
How cool would that be, though? Like, just to create something like a modern fairy tale and literally watch it kind of come to life before your very eyes and then walk away because the internet has decided it's theirs now. And you just get to watch this thing become something you don't know what it's going to turn into. That's got to be fascinating.
Yeah, apparently what drew him to the thing was that it seemed like they were just super into the idea of like incubating it and forcing it into existence.
We got to come up with a Chilluminati fairy tale monster.
Dude, it's not even out of the question.
No, I'm saying
we don't need to.
We
don't need to.
But like we need to.
We should just make up our own cryptid and like completely merchandise off of it.
We'll do a whole episode. We'll wait another year. Everybody will forget. We'll do a fake cryptid episode.
Yeah, sell the screenplay.
All right, I'm gonna pitch it here right now. The Boston Bean Man. Half bean, half man.
Half bean, half man?
The Boston Bean Man.
How tall is he?
The Boston Bean Man.
He's like a little sprite, and he like goes around and steals socks.
He's like Cool Spot.
Why socks, dude? No way, dude. He steals little nugs. They're legal out here.
Yeah.
He steals legal weed.
He steals all the nugs.
If your legal weed goes missing,
yes, where
the
it
Boston
goes.
Bean Man.
He walks out of a hole in your baseboards, and he goes... And if he can smell that legal government weed, he comes out and he gets it, and then he smokes it.
This little guy carrying a nug in my mind. He's just like, hell yeah, it's gonna be fucking great later.
But here's the thing, right? Like,
we gotta leave a sacrifice out for the Boston Bean Man.
Like, we're making jokes, but like the version of this John Titor legend that like I'm being told includes like in-jokes from the creators. Like, okay, like the 5100 IBM computer that he needed from 1975. According to Matheny's version of the story, the people that were working on this just all happened to be old IT people who happened to know this information, and because it was a piece of like little known information that just they had, they thought it would be funny to include it because it makes it seem like John Titor has like insider knowledge of something when really he doesn't. It's just people who know their shit about computers. But the problem is, though, with this, right? Because I wanna believe this. The problem is that while Matheny is a legit verifiable guy who's known to not be like a liar and has actually done the things he says he's done, he has a website. You can go check it out. He's in like people. He gets interviewed in like major publications all the time. He still refuses to disclose these names of these people that he supposedly worked with on the project. And because it's not his project. So unless they come forward with some kind of evidence that it's been them all along, the only difference between this explanation and the real John Titor explanation is whose word you're taking as true. So he's not, but he's not even the only person who's suspected of being at the center of John Titor. Okay. And in fact, most people out there will tell you that this next version of events is the most likely one that they've probably heard online in recent years. And it all has to do with an attorney who's called Larry Haber. Okay. This guy's a real guy. Because, see, according to Matheny, after a certain point, once the thing grew its own legs to stand on, right, he and the people that worked on it just stepped away and let it go, right? I've already said that. But according to him, the thing that's crazy is that he says that moment came for the people who originally made John Titor even before there was any posting on the Art Bell forums. So he's saying, what Matheny's saying is that everything that's happened since the original facts to Art Bell, basically, has been other people. The only thing that was real from the original creators of John Titor was the facts.
I believe that.
Yeah,
I actually believe this completely. I think most people, especially because it was Art Bell, most of the response is opportunistic. It's people trying to like
copycatters
make a buck. I believe that because Art Bell is, same thing with the people who are like, Art, I saw a UFO the other night. I think most of it is they like that aspect of fame because it's associated with it.
And it's something, right? Like you have a little attention as opposed to none. And when you call in on those radios, you're the star for 30 seconds.
Yeah. So we don't know exactly who the heck anyone was, right, at that time. Just it's like impossible to verify the identity of anybody posting Titor stuff on the internet almost, unless I guess you have a fucking secret tune that you can sing with the person and then you know it's them or whatever. But almost immediately, once these message board posts were done in March of 2001, right, all, quote, official publication, like public communication since then, has been through this guy, Larry Haber, who claims to be the attorney for something called the John Titor Foundation, which, according to him, belongs to John Titor. Everybody who knows Larry Haber knows him as an entertainment specialist lawyer, including Pamela Moore and John Rasmus, who actually has John Rasmus is this like sort of hoax hunter guy again that I've been talking about, and he's not like, looking at his channel, if you watch it, like, it's not super, like, it doesn't look very credentialed, but he's the main guy who's been looking into this, and he's the only guy. I think he has his own little theories that he's kind of trying to push, but he does a good job of collecting interviews and statements from people, so that's why I'm using him here. He says, I think they were fans of Art Bell. They created one of the first internet hoaxes, and it blew out of proportion. Perhaps they have some book rights or movie rights they've been sitting on, and that's his hypothesis. And weirdly, Larry Haber himself sometimes half supports this, except in the quote I have, he always refers to a K as the client making all these decisions about the John Titor story rights, which I assume to be the same K that Pamela Moore is referring to as John Titor's mom. Right? So that's already another weird thing. And according to Rasmus's extremely circular and repetitive 2-hour-long documentary on the creation of John Titor with the Haber brothers, which I think his video is not super, like, you should not watch that as fact.
Right.
But
also 2 hours on John Titor.
Most of it's
dude, he
most
says
of
the
it's
same
BS.
thing. He
Most
says the
of
same thing.
Yeah.
He just talks in a circle over and over and over again for a long part of the video. But
That's because
the
there's
creation
nothing to
of
say.
yeah, according to him, and a lot of this is substantiated by Larry Haber, the creation of John Titor can largely be credited to Maury Haber, who is Larry's brother, which is then sort of corroborated and supported by the other Haber brothers, who are Arthur and John Richard, and Larry's son Benjamin, except for one problem, which is, here's a quote about it from Larry Haber. My son is not John Titor. My brother is not John Titor. There is no John Haber in my family. So that's fucked up. Like, they're already making up brothers that don't exist and all this fucked up shit. And even worse, if Larry's story is true, then Matheny's story isn't true, right? Like, the way that Larry says it happened and the way that Matheny says it happened don't sync up. And so Matheny said, I saw some people that were clearly using the story as an effort to make money, which I am not cool with. Larry Haber, I don't know who he is. None of us do. He's not, nor has he ever been involved with the group I was in. He's an entertainment attorney. He's somebody who jumped on the bandwagon. And weirdly enough, though, if this actually is about money, the only commercial product ever released by Larry Haber's John Titor Foundation was a print-on-demand edition of all the original John Titor posts from the internet called John Titor, A Time Traveler's Tale, which came out in 2003, print-on-demand, and you can't even get it anymore from the print-on-demand service. The only way you can get it is a copy on Amazon for $900.
Oh, God, yep.
But
Those
that
are fucking
money,
awful.
But that money doesn't even go to the John Titor Foundation necessarily, depending on who's selling the book. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So there's not even like really a money motivation here, right? But somebody still sent Pamela Moore a copy of that book. And she said that she doesn't know who sent it, that whoever did left a song written in the back of the book. But unfortunately, it's not the same fucking song that John Titor used to sing to her, apparently, according to her.
Oh
so here we are again in this like
the
weird,
muddiest of muddied waters. You can't even see an inch in front of you. Nobody fucking knows what's real anymore.
So the best I can see is either there's really evidence of a time traveler visiting this timeline and saving us from Y2K, or some like really neat like artists with an Andrew WK type mindset tried to make something cool that captured people's imaginations, and then some people who got greedy ruined it to sell a shitty book.
Now, Twitter will have us know that hundreds of millions of dollars was pumped into technology to stop the Y2K bug from happening, and John Titor did not do anything. And I say to you, prove it.
I'm just saying, where did they get the technology? You know, maybe John Titor showed up at each one of those businesses and...
No, he just went way back in time, right when the computers were being made, and he implemented the fix right then and there.
That's the thing. It's like, people are like, look at this real-world evidence to, like, fly in the face of time travel. And I'm like, if time travel's true, Like, it doesn't matter what happens in the real world. Like that's the problem with time travel is it's like Doctor Who. Like, we don't know the rules of time travel for sure.
Yep.
We don't know anything about it. So it could be anything. And that's why it's frustrating and why it's kind of perfect for this type of like art project to do time travel, because it's such an enigmatic thing versus like creating an alien event, which
One
is
of my
like so much
favorite
more
things to work into
verifiable.
like a tabletop RPG, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But according to Joseph Matheny, like that's all according to plan. And here's a quote from him. He said, "We achieved what we said we wanted to achieve. We wanted to take that legend and write it on the new sphere like graffiti. If anybody has decided to believe the John Titor legend, pay attention to anybody who is trying to sell you anything. Books, DVDs, or a belief system attached to this as leverage. Give it a real hard thought before you do any of that, because John Titor would not approve." And that is, after 2 Fatty Boy episodes,
John.
still is not the end of John Titor. Because before we go today, I want to walk you guys through one last outsider theory that surfaced from the depths of 4chan in 2016 that made it all the way to famed UK tabloid The Daily Star.
Everyone's favorite cesspool on the internet, making it to everyone's favorite tabloid cesspool.
It's about how John Titor didn't actually come to stop Y2K.
He came to destroy us all.
He came to stop a nuclear war with ISIS. It all began.
Wait, hang on, Jesse.
What?
Jesse.
What?
It was a delayed second, and I watched your brain short circuit in real time.
It all begins in 1943 when the National Defense Research Committee needed to go through famous inventor Nikola Tesla's notes after his death to see if there was military applications for any of his research. The MIT professor they called in to look over them spent 3 days on the task before declaring that there was nothing of worth to be found. But 4chan conspiracy theorists allege that it was during this investigation that this professor actually found the plans for a Tesla-designed time machine. That professor was John George Trump, and soon he would impart what he learned to the future about the future to his nephew Donald, who would change history to set on course a chain of events leading to his eventual inauguration as the 45th and possibly last president of the United States of America.
I have heard pieces of this theory.
Yeah, the link to this shitty-ass article is in the description. That's actually the end of this episode.
All right, okay, there you go. Yeah.
But now I ask you guys, like, what do you think the most likely thing is? Obviously, the most likely thing is not that this has anything to do with a real time traveler, right?
Right.
But to me, the thing that's interesting about this is that this guy, Joseph Matheny, is like being a little cagey about what is actually happening here. And I don't really understand why it would be bad to reveal the identities of the people who made John Titor.
Well, because it's like...
Well, if you put their names out there, take it from them. If they want to do this again, if their identities are out there, it's easier to track them down.
I guess, but I feel like at this point, like, even if somebody did come out, like, I feel like that's already happened. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like in this age,
what
of,
if
like,
in their
fake
mind, though,
news,
if they come out and definitively put an end to the story, the art project officially ends, and maybe in their minds.
Why are we calling it an art project and not a scam?
Because
Like,
they have nothing to gain from it. You know what I mean? They're
I
just
thought they were
doing
just putting-
it on purpose to just like
hoax.
hoax.
They gain, you know, we're assuming that there's financial gain, but there's also the gain of like, haha, got him.
Yeah,
Well, it's
and
possible,
I
yeah,
think
like
that's what
trolling.
they're doing here, but I think they're doing it in a sort of like intellectual way. They're seeing it as like the creation wholesale of like, something like Mothman. It's like, what if you could just
The
create-
Boston Bean Boy.
The Boston Bean
Boston
Man.
Bean Boy.
The Boston Bean Boy.
Not man, he's a boy now.
Boy, right,
'cause
he's a boy.
Alliteration.
Yeah, that makes way
The
better.
Boston
Boy.
Bean Boy.
The Boston
Is he?
Baked Bean
Oh my
Boy.
God! It's because he's underage, which is why he steals the legal weed.
Yeah, and he's not baked because he's like baked. He's baked because he's smoking all that legal weed.
Right. He's the Boston Baked Bean Boy. Absolutely, yeah. He steals your weed.
Yeah.
Well, look at us making this. It's perfect.
Does he
Yeah,
wear
but-
anything? Does he have clothes? Is he just a naked bean?
No,
He
he's
has
a
shoes and
literal
gloves.
bean.
Yeah, he's
a
like, I'm
bean.
saying, is he like a bean with trousers, or is he just like a bean that's just
No,
naked?
he's a bean, but he's like, he got cartoon feet.
He has
like
shoes and
the,
gloves,
like sticks
yeah.
and
Shoes
the,
and
Got,
gloves.
little,
got it.
like Betty Boop arms. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's like Rayman, but with like Betty Boop arms. But like,
Right.
here's what I mean is like, okay, even if this is people who are like making shit up to fuck with people, right? And they did it in the year 2000, right? even if they came clean right now, the only people who are going to like benefit from it in any way are people who are actually like willing to accept that it's a fake thing. And I feel like the whole spirit of this is that, like, I guarantee you that if they did come out and say that we're the people who invented John Titor, and Joseph Matheny came out and said, yep, that's them, the first thing that would be posted on the John Titor subreddit would be like, so here's the fake.
Yep.
Here's the latest fake attempt to cash in on John Titor.
Yep.
So I feel like at this point, I would like to put out a call to anybody who maybe is involved in this. If they do hear this somehow, if they are still stroking their egos and looking as far as John Titor goes, and you're listening to this, I would like to just know. I don't care if you go public. I don't care what, but I just want you to tell me.
I just want to know.
Just because I'm impressed, and I want to read the plaque on this at a museum. You know what I mean? I want to like know what's up. I want to know what you guys are thinking about. I want to know where your head was at with this, because I think John Titor is awesome, even if he is fake. And honestly, the reason I like John Titor so much is because he perfectly exemplifies like everything that I like about like this type of shit in the first
Internet
place.
mysteries.
Which is like, I'm not so much interested in whether or not everything is true. Like, I'm just more interested in this as a way that specifically Americans in a lot of cases tell like stories to each other. And I feel like John Titor is like the OG. Like, if there was no John Titor, there would be no Slender Man. There would be no Momo. There would be no, any of that type of shit.
It's cool, man. Humanity will take anything and make it a storytelling device if they can.
But
the internet being the newest example, I guess.
Speaking of storytelling devices and John Titor, 2019 book, published February 7th, 2019. John Titor is an Asshole by Jeff O'Brien. Sarah Bartlett, a sexy 80s horror movie host, yearns for eternal stardom, or at least to stay relevant for a few decades.
I know that feeling.
After seeking out world-renowned time traveler John Titor, a hero from the future, struggling author and 80s movie expert, Jeff O'Brien, is sent to help her achieve that dream. But such services do not come without a price, neither for Sarah nor for her knight in shining armor. Both are about to learn that John Titor is an asshole. That is a book. It exists. You can get it.
It's a book? Oh, that's wild. I was hoping it was like a shitty B movie.
It is a book by Jeff O'Brien starring
Jeff O'Brien.
I'm blown away that this exists.
There's also a video on Jeff O'Brien's YouTube channel, which has 17 subscribers, that is called My Real Experience with John Titor. He really is an asshole. And he says in the description, I wrote a book about fictional time traveler John Titor. Little did I know there is a guy who thinks he really is the titular character. He's also an extortionist, among several other things. All I needed was Google and a little expert-level trolling and the help of a few friends to get through to this one.
That's so good.
He now also is being harangued by John Titor II for writing a book called John Titor is an Asshole.
Oh, man, that's so good. Oh, the layers are ever present.
But don't you think that's crazy? Like, imagine being one of these people whose like life is like based off John Titor. Like, it's not real if you're faking it, right?
No,
like,
yeah, or you're just severely mentally ill and you truly believe you are John Titor.
I guess that's possible too. But I mean, I feel like most people who are like trying to profit off this.
Oh, definitely. Anybody who's trying to make money.
Yeah, like even with the Kevin Moore thing though, like this book, like it was a paltry sum that the book made. Like it was doing well on Kindle, I guess, but like we're talking about a couple $1,000 total here. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
it's not worth it.
But you also have to know that shows like Coast to Coast AM profit off of people like learning about these things.
Oh,
and,
for sure.
And really, like I've always thought this. I will continue to think this. When Art Bell hosted Coast to Coast AM, Art Bell would shoot down things all the time.
All the
He would
time,
be
yeah.
like all the time. And the show was like, it was on, but it wasn't huge. George Noy took over, and George was like, tell me more. What is this about? I want to learn about this thing. And would never shoot people down. And it blew up. The show exploded overnight.
Yeah.
And
Art Bell was better at like getting people to talk about. Like he'll like poke a hole in it and then wait for the person to answer. And that was what was so interesting about it.
That's why if you want to share your stories with us, we're going to become the modern Coast to Coast. So share your stories.
We're ready to believe you.
We are
not
ready
me.
To believe.
I'm ready to question everything you say.
Well, you get 2 George Norris and an Art Bell, all right? So it's fine. We got to have that balance. Otherwise, it's too crazy.
2 George Norris and an Art Bell is like the shittiest party.
I feel like I'm not fully Mulder or fully Scully. I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle. I feel like I'm here for the story.
Yeah, you're one of the guest hosts, like the guy who was like a Jesuit priest. I can't remember his name. The guy who'd show up on weekends and he'd host during the weekends.
He's
and
a
was
Jesuit
like,
priest?
Yeah, I think so. Wasn't there a guy? I'm gonna have to look up Coast to Coast hosts. I don't remember his name.
So many good guests on that show.
Well, anyway, I don't know. I felt like it was important to do like a definitive John Titor, and I know that this one kind of ends up being like a big question mark at the end, but I feel like the fact that it ends as like a legit mystery and I'm not like a hundo clear on like who made this or what, there is still like this weird element of like unsolvedness to this one that I feel like someday somebody's going to come clean about it. And I just want to know. I don't care. I won't share. I just want to know. I'm interested in it.
I just want to know.
From a sociological level. Just let me know.
Well, it was a fun ride, dude. Your internet mysteries are wild, and they're. I'm glad you take us down these deep rabbit holes. Jesse, what are you doing right now?
I'm trying to find this guy's name.
Oh, the Jesuit priest boy.
Oh, Ian Punnett was his name.
I'm that guy.
Yeah, he was a regular host, but he retired because he got tinnitus.
No, I sometimes have tinnitus.
Oh, you're truly gonna be following his path.
I don't think he was the Jesuit. There was a guy who was like a priest. I don't know if that was him or not. But yeah, he had tinnitus and he had to stop. No, that's you.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, that's all I got for you guys today.
Fantastic, man.
That's John Titor Part 2.
That was awesome. Thank you for that wild ride. We've got a minisode compilation coming up very, very soon. It'll be another 4 episodes. Even after that comes out, there should still be 2 or 3 exclusives over on the Patreon and growing over there. And then after that, I think we're due for another fan stories relatively soon. So if you want to be dropping some fan stories,
I've seen them.
Yeah, there's so many good ones. We've got dreams up there for Jesse to interpret. We've got all kinds of good stuff. So if you want,
ready. I will interpret your dreams the best. I'll be the best dream interpreter.
I'm kind of ready for like an extra chunky fan stories. I think we could do it.
There's so many stories up there now. Like the stories just never stop. So drop them up on the subreddit. Make sure you tag it to let us know it's okay to read on the podcast, and we will we'll choose a few stories and we'll go through them like we always do. And finally, again, thank you guys for the support on the Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod. You can go ahead and support us, go above and beyond, get some behind the scenes extras by throwing us a few bucks. And it just ensures that we get to keep doing this and going through weird shit in the world with you. We're going to go.
If you're not ready to finish listening to us, we're about to record some more.
And you will have 6 exclusive episodes to go right to after.
And let me tell you, this one's going to be a good one.
They're always good.
Not like those other ones. Those ones suck.
I've just been excited to talk about. I've just been excited to talk about the thing that we're going to talk about today. So
I'm pumped. As always, guys, if you were listening, drop us a review. We're just about to cross 1,200 reviews over on iTunes, maintaining that 5-star average. Let us know what you guys think. Drop us a review. It goes a long way to help us out. And we will see you all next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace. Bye.